Michelle Ty, the Regional Administrator for Starden Computer's Southwestern Sales Region. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to some of our people and products. Here's Alan Scrivener, Senior Systems Analyst.
Hello, I'm Alan Scrivener, Senior Systems Analyst for Starden Computer's Southwestern Operations. I work out of our Los Angeles office. I made you this videotape because I wanted to introduce you to some of the uses of Starden Computers and our visualization software in computational fluid dynamics. Starden Computer Incorporated manufactures a line of departmental and graphic supercomputers. These range from desktop workstations to high-end systems approaching the speeds of multi-million-dollar Cray supercomputers. Several independent organizations have named Starden computers as the most cost-effective scientific computers available today. Remarkable added value of Starden's computers is the visualization software bundled free of charge with every system. The Application Visualization System, AVS, is a user-friendly applications builder which exploits the powerful compute and graphics hardware capabilities of Starden computers. Included in AVS is a geometry viewer for interacting with static and animated geometries. This allows the user to change views, light direction, object properties, set transparency, and interactively manipulate geometric objects. An image viewer allows interactive use of a variety of image processing techniques. And a volume viewer allows the user to bring a variety of volume visualization techniques to bear on 3D volume datasets. But by far the most powerful capability of AVS is its network editor. This gives the user a toolbox of visualization techniques which can be dragged into a work area and connected using a simple mouse interface. In the AVS toolkit are divided into 4 categories: data input modules, filters, mappers, and renderers. These follow the assumption that the visualization process consists of reading data off disk from an input device or generating it on the fly using a computational model, filtering and transforming that data in some way, mapping it into geometric or volumetric or pixel primitives, and then displaying those primitives on the screen using a variety of rendering techniques and or storing them to disk and sending them to other devices. Each AVS module in the toolkit is documented in the AVS documentation. For example, here is the manual page for the read field module. Online versions of these manual pages are also available. For example, here again is the read field module, and interactively we're able to access its manual page. Here is a simple network to display the boundaries of a field. We can interactively rotate this bounding box, and you see the modules that are currently computing flash as they compute. The concept of a field is an important one, so it merits a closer look. The field is defined by a set of parameters: the dimensionality of the data in question, the dimensionality of the space the data is embedded in, the extent of each data dimension, the number of vector elements at each cell in the field, the data type of the field, and the field type. Of these, the field type is the most subtle concept. Information about a field's type is stored in a text header, which is human readable. This header tells AVS how to interpret the binary data which follows in the field. Let's take a quick look at each of the AVS field types. A uniform field is a field made of uniform voxels or cells. For example, in the 3D case, each voxel is a cube. Here we see the perimeter of a uniform field. Along 2 of the faces, the edges of the voxels have been drawn as vectors. Here, a colored sphere has been placed at each voxel location. The color of the sphere indicates the value of the field at that voxel location. Next, we'll look at a rectilinear field. A rectilinear field is a field in which all of the delimiting boundaries are orthogonal, but not necessarily evenly spaced. For example, in a 3D case, all the voxels are rectilinear solids. All non-uniform grids imply a mapping from the computational space to the physical coordinate space. This diagram from the AVS Developer's Guide shows one possible mapping for a rectilinear field. And here are the boundaries displayed for a 3D rectilinear field in AVS. A bounding box is drawn around the field, and on two faces, the voxel cell edges are drawn as well. Here again, a sphere has been placed at each voxel, so that as we interact with the rendering of the field, we can see the inherent rectilinear structure of the grid. Once again, the color indicates the value of the field at each position. Lastly, we look at a 3D irregular, also called curvilinear field. This is a field in which the grid structure is not confined to our orthogonal straight line grid. However, it still must meet the topological constraint that each voxel has 6 neighbors in the 3D case: front, back, left, right, top, and bottom. Here the boundaries of such a field are displayed. This is the blunt fin case given away with the Plot 3D computational fluid dynamics software. It shows that the field wraps around a cylinder near the bottom of the screen. Here once again we have placed a sphere at each cell location and colored the spheres to indicate the field values. Once again, the structure of the field, in this case curvilinear, is visible as we manipulate these spheres. These diagrams from the AVS Developer's Guide show other possible mappings from the compute domain to the physical domain in a curvilinear or irregular grid. AVS also supports unstructured cell data. Strictly speaking, this is not field data in the sense of regular and curvilinear and rectilinear fields, but it does allow for data types which do not meet the topological constraint of having 6 neighbors for each cell. This is useful in finite element analysis and computational fluid dynamics, in which the grid needs to be oddly shaped at different points in the data set. Now that we've looked a little more closely at the AVS field types, let's look at the way that these fields can be used to do visualization of computational fluid dynamics, or CFD. Stardent's Southwestern Operation Headquarters is located near the Los Angeles International Airport. Here we have assembled some actual visualization examples provided us by some of our customers who are doing visualization with Stardent computers. Instead of simply showing you demo programs that were assembled by our programming staff at our headquarters in Concord, Massachusetts, we prefer to use actual science and engineering visualization produced by our customers. North of Los Angeles, up the California coast, in the community of Thousand Oaks, is where Rockwell International Corporation maintains its Science Center. The Science Center is a center of excellence for computational fluid dynamics. Located in a campus-like setting, it is a place where basic research can be done. And the codes developed there are used in all the various Rockwell divisions to analyze computational fluid dynamic flows over aircraft and spacecraft. This visualization is of airflow over a space shuttle during re-entry. A curvilinear grid has been constructed, as you can see here, of half of a shuttle. Since the case is entirely symmetric, the entire shuttle does not need to be computed. You can see the grid lines. Blue is the shuttle surface itself. Red shows you a plane which is perpendicular to the path of the shuttle. and green shows a plane which bisects the shuttle. Here we see an isosurface has been mapped onto the shuttle shell. This is a surface of constant value. In this case, what we are looking at is the magnitude of the wind velocity vectors. In other words, this surface is a surface of constant wind velocity. The colors on the surface represent the divergence, or the spreading out of wind. The divergence has been mapped onto the magnitude isosurface as false color. Now we have produced an animation of the isosurface by setting its threshold value to 10 different values. Notice as we sweep through this range of values that the red regions, the regions of highest divergence, occur on the leading edge of the wings, on the leading edge of the tail or vertical stabilizer, and on the nose and leading edge of the crew compartment. These are the areas where divergence is the highest, since these are the bluntest portions of the shuttle. And here is the AVS network which we used to create this visualization. Note that no programming was required in order to read and visualize this data. The build-a-field module is able to take text file input telling it the structure of a disk file. The data was cropped with a crop module. The divergence was calculated with a vector div module, the magnitude with a vector mag module. Both of these were given as inputs to the isosurface module along with a color map. The isosurface and a volume bounds calculated in parallel were sent to the render geometry module, which rendered a pix map, which was then displayed by display pix map in an X window. All of this was done in an afternoon. The technical risk involved of doing these kinds of visualization experiments is minimal. Another network we constructed showed the vector curl instead of divergence mapped onto magnitude. Brea, California, in western Orange County, is the location of one of the first oil fields in Southern California, the La Habra oil fields. Today, on the site of this oil dome, is located Chevron Oil Field Research Company, a division of Chevron Oil, also in a campus-like setting, which does research for all the other Chevron divisions. Chevron is using Starden computers to do computational fluid dynamics simulations of underground oil deposits, actually deposits of oil, gas, and water. They compare these simulations with actual historical data. In this visualization, they have a series of time steps representing a 10-year period over which oil is pumped out of an oil field while steam is pumped in through injectors. This is a standard practice for forcing oil out of an oil field. Their simulation then allows them to analyze the yield they are getting from that oil field and determining whether they are using it most efficiently or not. Chevron did only a minimal amount of programming in order to visualize the results of their simulation, and they customized their AVS display to show such information as the time step and title. Here we see a portion of the code Chevron wrote to integrate their simulation into AVS. Notice that there are interactors called model name, time scale, annotations, file name, time step, next step, previous step, which are defined using AVS parameter calls. And here are the interactors which AVS created when it ran this code. The interesting thing is that the code to produce the X windows, the rendering, the widgets, which is what we call these knob and slider and other interactors, is all in the AVS Flow Executive. It did not have to be written by Chevron. They only had to make calls into the AVS routines in order to have these user interfaces created for them. Located in western Orange County, the Irvine campus of the University of California is located on a picturesque site combining eucalyptus trees from the old Irvine Ranch with modern college buildings. Here, researchers in the engineering department are investigating what occurs during the combustion of fluid droplets in a high-speed gas flow, such as one would find in a jet engine. The conventional wisdom is that droplets of fuel in a high-speed gas flow will not congeal and form larger droplets. But this assumption has never been tested until now. Using Cray computers and Starden computers, engineers at UC Irvine are testing this assumption with simulations. They model a single droplet with a high-speed gas flow past it. This modeling process involves the use of a curvilinear grid. Shown here in red, the outer shell of the grid is a sphere, which concentrically gets smaller and smaller as it approaches the droplet. Scaling up the image, we can see the droplet itself is represented by the inner red grid. To the right is an isosurface of pressure. You can see that this result is asymmetric. There is high pressure to one side of the droplet. False color has been mapped onto this isosurface of pressure to show the x component of velocity. Using these simulations, UCI's researchers are able to confirm existing assumptions that go into other calculations of combustion. Here is the AVS network which was used to accomplish this visualization. Note that only 30 minutes of effort were required to take the output of the simulation and visualize it using AVS. Located in southern Los Angeles County in the community of Huntington Beach, McDonnell Douglas Space Systems Company is a manufacturer of launch vehicles and spacecraft. They are using the code Flow3D to analyze sloshing in a fuel tank on Starden computers. Here, a rectilinear volume of fluid is being analyzed. Fluid is sloshing, and the direction of each element's slosh or flow is given as a vector. These vectors are displayed as small little line segments. Also, the surface of the fluid is shown as a colored isosurface. Vorticity has been mapped onto the surface as false color. In addition, we have the ability to advect particles into this system to see how the flow proceeds. There is a rectangle, which we are now highlighting with the mouse, and within this rectangle, particle flow will be displayed. Here, a batch of particles has been released within the rectangle in question, and we are watching them advect using a forward Euler technique. Position the advecting plane, and another set of particles is released to flow through the volume. These and other techniques allow McDonnell Douglas engineers to visualize the rather complex results of these Flow3D computations of sloshing fuel in a tank. And here is the AVS network used to visualize this flow. The network may appear somewhat complex. This is because we are combining a number of visualization techniques into one view. Very little programming is required. This represents about 2 hours of effort to produce a visualization. With this short video, we have attempted to show you some of the things that you can do with AVS in computational fluid dynamics. The question now is, what could you do with AVS?